about how I grew my outdoor plants inside in my apartment. All of my outdoor plants, my vegetables and any flowers I've grown, I started by seed and I started growing them back in probably March or April. I know it was the beginning of quarantine here in Ohio. So during that time, I already had one of these like seed trays sitting around, and I had seeds that I had accumulated over the last 2 years just kind of lying around, and a couple little empty pods. And so during the boredom of the beginning of quarantine, when I wasn't quite sure when I'd be going back to school or what, I just passing one day, I just popped a couple seeds in one of those pods and was kind of like whatever, because over the last couple years I've just loosely attempted to grow plants from seeds, and I'll start off, I'll plant them and I'll be kind of interested in it, and then either I'll get busy or I'll just forget about them, and then they sprout maybe an inch and they die because I just stopped paying attention to them. Anyway, this year I was like, well, I guess now I'll have the time or whatever, the interest in actually growing plants from seed. When I did that, to my surprise, these plants, the 4 that I had begun with, had all sprouted. And so I was like, okay, time to take it a little more seriously. So I started doing my research as to what seedlings need when they're at that stage, because I knew I was doing something wrong in the past. When I would try and grow them, they would end up dying no matter what. Anyway, I just would like to show you guys the setup I developed this year. This is my first year actually successfully growing plants indoors from seeds. The setup wasn't right away. It took me the majority of the growing season or growing life of these seedlings to get it right. By the time these seedlings were ready to go outside, I finally had the setup right and where I wanted it to be. But either way, they made it through, so it's good, I guess. But next season, I definitely plan to use this setup pretty much the exact same. I'm probably not going to change much just because this is affordable. I know that there are whole seed starter like grow kits that you can get with the grow lights and everything already, and I know they can be quite expensive, but they are a lot more convenient. So anyway, first off, when I first started growing these, I just had them in one of these plastic trays you can get from like a Walmart or a nursery or whatever, and they come with a lid. They're like a little portable greenhouse. I started off with this and they were doing okay. I did actually this year, I had a heat mat that I bought from like years ago. I forget for what. I know it wasn't for plants. It's probably for some sort of reptile or something, I don't remember. But anyway, I had this lying around. So when I initially planted the first handful of seeds that I did, I was like, they're not really getting direct sun, so this greenhouse wasn't warming up, because seedlings need warmth at first, to sprout. So I was like, they're definitely not getting the warmth because I wasn't getting direct sunlight, and here in Ohio, we don't get direct sun until probably like May. And like I said, this was probably the end of March, beginning of April I was doing this, so we were still having a lot of cloudy days and things like that. I had these sitting on my dining table. They were getting a lot of bright indirect light, but like I said, that wasn't enough to supply heat to the seeds. So I got this heating pad and I just placed it right on top. This heating pad that I have is meant for seeds. It's not a heating pad for reptiles or anything like that, so it doesn't get as hot. So this heating pad is meant for plants. It does tell you on here, it has a handful of like popular plants people grow, I guess the crops specifically, and kind of the temperature range you want to have them at and days to germination. Honestly, when I did my plants this year, I didn't keep track of temperature at all within my greenhouse. I just kind of put a variety of seeds in there, and if they sprouted, they did, and if not, they didn't. But honestly, the majority, almost everything I planted did sprout, which I'll go over that in a little bit. But so yeah, this is a heating pad I used. I kept this or I kept the seeds on this until they sprouted. Once they had been sprouted for about a day or two, I removed them from the greenhouse because generally with most of the outdoor plants, like crops that most people grow inside, those seedlings don't really need any more heat. It's more about sun at that point and light. I will make a whole different video though on care for seedlings and stuff like that, so I'm not going to go too much in depth right now. But once those did sprout, I kept them in their little like pods, and at the time I just had them kind of sitting on my dining table getting indirect sun, and it didn't feel like it was enough. So by the time those seeds sprouted, I had only had about like 4 little plants, and I was so excited that they popped up that I planted a ton more, like probably at least 20 more plants. And so at the time I felt like they weren't getting enough light, the ones that had sprouted. And I went and I bought this like little clip table light, whatever, from Walmart. It was like $8. And I bought a grow light bulb from Walmart. And I just was like, oh, like this will be enough, you know, whatever. So I like had it clipped on the dining table, on the chair there, and like, you know, over the plants, and it was doing great. Like the plants were growing, it was all good. But then all 20 of my other plants sprouted, and this little light wasn't covering enough area to give light to all the rest of the plants. So I was like, shoot, I need to figure something out. So I did a little bit of research. I will do a separate video on grow lights in the future, but right now I'm not going to go too in depth about it because there is a lot to talk about when it comes to grow lights. But for now, I'm just going to show what I use because they got the job done. And again, I was trying to do this the affordable way. I really wasn't trying to buy like $200 grow lights or something like that because I know they can get quite fancy. But I just did what worked for me and what, you know, was good for the time being. I went to a local like pet store and I picked up one of these like fish lights. You know, they go on the top of the fish tank and, you know, whatever. So I was like, oh, cool. And this one actually came with the correct light bulb I needed, which was a T8 fluorescent bulb. This bulb even is for fish tanks that people are like, they have whole like little ecosystems in them. They're like growing plants and everything. So I was like, okay, that'll get the job done. So when I got this, I was like, well, now how am I gonna have this over the plants? So I had it like rigged up for a little bit on some things, and it just really wasn't working anymore. And I started getting more and more plants that were sprouting, and I needed some sort of setup. So I ended up at a Lowe's one day looking for a specific grow bulb, and I found this thing, and I got the small one. See, it's like this tall. They have some that are like they have like 2 or 3 more tiers on them. But anyway, I got this. It was probably like maybe 40 or 50 bucks, so it wasn't too bad. And it's pretty nice because you can adjust the height of these shelves here, which comes into handy for when the plants start to grow taller, because you want to keep the light above the plants a couple inches. Like you want the plants very close to the light so they're not stretching and kind of turning ugly trying to get enough light. So it's nice because you can change the level of these shelves as the plant grows. I just placed this right on top here and whatever, had this plugged in. And the shelf at the time was raised up a lot higher because the seedlings were still only a couple inches. They weren't very large yet. So yeah, I had that. But then I kept getting more plants that were sprouting. I planted probably 4 of each plant because I really didn't think I was gonna get as many as I ended up getting. And I really think that the heat mat contributed to the amount of things that ended up sprouting. It really helped with the humidity in there and encouraging those things to grow. This is where the seedlings would go, to start getting their light once they had sprouted. So then like I had said, I started getting more and more and more, and I was getting stressed out because this light, although it does its job, it did great. All the plants got the light spectrum, everything that they needed. It's only a single bulb. So when you have this on, it's like only this area that is covered by light. And I was able to line up, you know, when the plants were really small, I was able to line the majority of them up. But as they started getting bigger and they moved into slightly larger, like nursery pots, that wasn't gonna work anymore. I was only able to have like maybe 8 lined up underneath this light. So I had to hurry up and find another light, and it was such a pain for me to find another one of these like fish tank lights that had a double bulb in them. And I was afraid to buy the same exact light because like I said, it was really only covering about 8 plants, and I had over 20. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to end up buying like 3 or 4 more of those in order for it to work. So I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to buy one big light that would be able to cover at least the majority of them, and this one would be able to do the rest. So I did some more research, and on Home Depot I ordered this light, and this one is LED. It does have the right color spectrum of light that the plants needed. This one, I don't think I have a preference between the two. They honestly both did a really good job, and I would rotate the plants around every day so they would get both types of lighting, I guess. But near the end there, I stopped rotating them so much because I kind of wasn't paying as much attention to the plants that were taking longer to grow. And honestly, they all ended up doing really well, and in the end, all plants ended up being the same basically. Okay, so with this one, it's a little different because if I set it on here, the light bulbs, and this is LED, so it really doesn't get hot at all. But I didn't like it just sitting right on here. So what's nice about this light and about this stand here, the shelving, this light actually came with these like little metal hook type things, and they hook in the light, and then you can hook you can just put the hooks on anything to hang it. And so I ended up hanging this light like down here like this, so none of the light was getting blocked from any of the bars up top. And I had that hanging, and it was the same type of thing. You know, the shelf is the adjustable, so I could adjust it as the plants grew and whatever. Along with having these lights set up, I did have a fan clipped on the edge here. This is like a little cheap Walmart fan I got for like $5 maybe. And anyway, I did have that clipped on, or it did come with like a little stand I could put this on instead. And sometimes I would stand it up and back it up, just because by the time I was using both shelves, it was hard to like have this fan hitting, you know, both plants and whatever. It's important to have some sort of airflow around your seedlings or very humid plants like that, just because it's bound to grow mold if it's just sitting there kind of in this, like, not in water, but sitting there, it's moist the majority of the time, and then there's no airflow, and I was keeping it quite humid in that area, so I was just asking for mold to grow. So by having the fan blowing on it, it kept from that happening. Yeah, that's pretty much the whole way I had this set up. Near the end there, at the time, I was still getting up really early in the morning, so I was able to turn the lights on and, you know, turn everything on early in the day and then turn it off late at night, because you do want your seedlings to get about like 14 to 16 hours of light, and then, you know, the rest darkness. Sometimes they actually need more, like towards 18 hours. But anyway, that's for another video. But near the end there, I did end up putting everything on a timer just so I could be assured they were getting the full amount of time that they needed, and I wouldn't have to be up super early and to bed really late just for these plants. So that's really it. Ultimately, all the plants are doing really well. This is one of the plants I planted. This is an Anaheim chili plant. It has a ton of flowers on it, and I see a few tiny chilies coming. I should have probably grabbed one of my other Anaheims, because now everything is growing their actual fruit, their chilies and stuff like that. So the types of plants I planted this year indoor consisted of, I grew carrots, I grew sunflower, cayenne pepper, this chili pepper, this Anaheim pepper, bell pepper, catnip, sage, mint, lavender, I can't remember if I said carrots already or not. Next season, I do plan on doing way more flowers rather than some sort of crop like this, just because I do love growing fruit and, you know, whatever, but the issue is that I don't really have anyone to give all these vegetables to now, and I know I'm not going to eat like 20 bell peppers because I do have about probably 10 or 12 chili plants, like different chili plants, so that's going to be a ton of chilies I'm getting, and I already know I'm going to have to freeze the majority of them because I'm really the only one in the household eating any of that stuff, and I don't want it to go to waste. So yeah, next year I plan on doing a ton of different flowers and seeing how that goes, and yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. It was just a quick video showing you guys my setup, especially since I live in an apartment and I don't really have the luxury of having like an outdoor little greenhouse during, you know, the season, because I don't really have a yard, I just have a porch. So yeah, this is basically the setup I used. I do plan on in the future doing a video on care for seedlings and more videos on lights and the understanding of them, because they can get a little complicated or at least overwhelming, especially when you're first getting into it. And in my opinion, there's a lot to learn about lighting. So yeah, that's for a whole nother video. But I hope you guys did enjoy this today. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.